All right. Hey, guys, friends. I think all of you know who I am that's called in today. I called this meeting for a request from a friend of mine. As some of you know, my name is Ramsey. I'm just a regular guy like the rest of you. I've taken on a new kind of a name called Coach Ramsey because I'm helping a lot of my friends along their journey in weight loss. Again, if you're on, let me go ahead and mute. If you're not speaking today, just some housekeeping stuff. We're going to do a webinar today, sharing some of my lessons that I've learned over the last 13 years or so on this journey to finding better health and finding the best version of myself. So if you log in, just make sure that you mute yourself because I haven't muted everybody. You can get yourself off of mute if you want. If you have any questions, we're going to make this interactive and fun today. So my hope is I'd love all of you to take away a few lessons that I've learned along my journey. I'm not going to act as an expert in the space. I just a regular guy that's had a significant transformation. I want to share some ideas and lessons that I've learned. And the core focus of this presentation today is going to really be around getting your mind right to prepare for transformation within your weight loss journey, whether it's your weight loss journey, whether it's whatever types of things that you're working on to improve on. These principles apply to all of them. In the end of this session, we're going to have, hopefully, Dr. Mohammed Alo, who's a cardiologist and a passionate fitness fanatic. Hey, Abe. I'm in the presentation. Go ahead, Go ahead and grab a chair if you want. We're gonna open this up to Q&A at the end. So he is a cardiologist and a YouTuber and a fitness sensation who's gone through a transformation of his own. And he just published a new book around weight loss management. I would love you guys to ask him any questions that you guys have, whether it's on whatever diets that you're on. What does the science say about a lot of that stuff that you're working on? He has scientific evidence to back all that information. So hopefully Dr. Alo is finishing up his previous engagement and he can call in shortly. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be a lot of fun. I set this up to be Ramsey's top 10 list of lessons learned in my weight loss journey. So I know if you guys watched Letterman in the past, he's got a top 10 list. So this is going to be a top 10 list. And I hope it's impactful to you. So as you guys kind of embark on transformation, this is the key things that I've engaged in. For those that don't know me, I think that you can forward it on to a number of people. You can see me now on the camera. I'm in shape, I think, from what people have told me. But it didn't always happen that way. Throughout my entire 20s, I was more or less overweight. 250 plus pounds. This is more or less how I looked throughout all of my 20s. And then getting into my 30s, I decided at that time, I didn't want to be overweight and getting older and having my kids look at me as just an average dad. My biggest thing for me was to be a role model for my kids, to show my kids that they don't have to be average in any aspect of their lives, whether it's their health, whether it's their studies, their school, their work, whatever it is. I really wanted to be a role model for my kids and the community around me. So I embarked on this journey back in my late 20s. It started out as a weight loss challenge, like many of you are on right now. I've been on that weight loss challenge that Haas and a number of my other friends have been on. And, I started out my journey in a crash diet. I lost some weight. I got down to a manageable weight where I can start exercising. And I realized for the first time when I was about 30 years old, I'm 42 years old now, that I actually really enjoy the endorphins. I love exercise. I love to run, and then I started getting into this whole process of transforming myself from weighing 250 pounds down to weighing, 200 pounds, to where I started running. I do my first marathon, to where I kept along the journey to actually completing a full Ironman triathlon, which is the equivalent of over 140 total miles between running, biking, and swimming. And that entire process for between the ages of between 30 and 35 or so was really rewarding because I challenged myself. And I think a lot of you are in that boat where you say, you have to have a program to find a path to better health. You have to find some type of a structure and some reason to actually exercise and push yourself for performance, which is why a lot of people actually get into things like marathons and triathlons and things like that. It actually requires them to do certain things at a certain time, or else they won't be able to complete the event. And so having that structure was really helpful to me. But I got to tell you, it was painful, and I really didn't enjoy, running the marathon. I enjoyed finishing the marathon and feeling accomplished, and it taught me a lot of character, which I recommend all of you try if that's something that's needed for you in your life. But getting past my 30s now, I'm in my 40s now. I'm in a position now where my why has changed a little bit. It's not about necessarily testing myself, seeing what I'm capable of. It's not about developing my character. It's not about just trying to push overachiever, try to drive performance. Now I'm in a position where I really just want to be a better version of myself. You want to be a light for those around me. And I was fortunate enough to meet some good friends over the last year and a half. Riz, I don't know if he's on, but the Captain Faisal's on, and I see Zubair and a few others. And they encouraged me to get recentered back into my fitness, through cycling. And cycling was my big thing. And so I started cycling with the guys. And through the process, I said to myself, I said, I don't want to just do what I did before when I was doing all those high endurance exercises, because it was painful. Yes, I was losing weight, but it wasn't fun to me. I wanted to do something that was fun and social. Cycling was it. But in order to be a better cycler, you had to, maybe lose a few pounds, right? In order to climb the hills and things of that nature. And then I get into weight loss or to weightlifting over the last year and a half. And that's where I worked with Sean. So Sean Clark, who's he's a personal trainer that's helped me with my form. And he's awesome. He's on the line today. You can unmute yourself and say hello if you want, Sean. But Sean is a personal trainer at PT in the D, which is a studio downtown Detroit. He's awesome. And so I really took a lot of time to really understand what it takes to really change your body composition. And today, for the first time in my life, I'm really proud of who I see in the mirror. And it's not because of the shape. Obviously, I've changed a little bit, over the years from the 20s until now I'm 42. But it's also understanding what my body wants and how my body interacts with not just the weights to help it change shape, but also to the food to help making myself feel good and help myself be balanced, not just physically, but also, mentally. And so I spent a lot of time, there is Sean Clark, PT in the D, make sure you go check out a studio downtown, it's not just about the weight training. The weight training is one aspect of it, but there's a common thread that everybody talks about. It's really cliche. And that thread is really, you can't exercise a bad diet. And that's pretty obvious for a lot of reasons, considering, calorie intake, calorie out, and so I hired a nutritionist as well over the last year and a half. And then that process, I started to really understand food and build a different relationship that I have with food, understanding what food is okay and what food maybe is a little bit unhealthy, and understanding that it's okay to eat what you want and you can still have a transformation. And I'm, proof of that. I'm a sampling of one. But Dr. Alo hopefully has joined us, and he can, answer more of your questions there. He's on the line. And so he can answer the science behind a lot of my principles. And the good thing is that Dr. Alo and I are 100% aligned. I love his content on YouTube. You have to check it out. And so I believe in a lot of his principles. I know a lot of people on the weight loss channels right now don't, and that's cool. You can ask him questions and he'll tell you the science behind it. So let's get started with my top 10 lessons, okay, for a 15-minute introduction. That was way longer than I anticipated. This is kind of like therapy for me too. All right, so I subscribe to a principle that I think all of you are familiar with, this whole Mamba mentality, right? So there's this constant quest through Kobe Bryant's, talk about Mamba, right? Is to, try to be the best version of ourselves. And I started this conversation off with why I wanted to get into my fitness journey, which was essentially be a better role model for my kids. And so that's really was my why at the time, 15 years ago when I decided I wanted to make this change. You really have to start asking yourself, what is your why? Before you even embark on whatever types of program, diet, exercise, whatever type of journey that you're going to be on, just ask yourself, like, why is it that I want to go through this? Is this just for the weight loss challenge? Do I really just want to drop 50 pounds in the next 30 days in order to beat my friends? And that's the only thing, just for fun, for gamification, and kill myself? And that's fine. That's one approach. Is it because you want to maybe look good on the beach when you go and hang out with your college friends during spring break? That's a cool why. If that's your thing, go for it. That's why most high school kids and college kids look good. It's because they just want to pick up pick up a girl or a boy or whatever. And that's their why, and it's their motivation, and that's fine for them at that time, right? Or is it our motivation, right? As we get a little older, to be like at our age, in 30s and the 40s, we want to start being role models for our kids, and really having a way that you can connect with them and get close to them and interact with them, play sports with them, and build houses with them, or whatever it is that you want to do with them. And you can't do that when you're weighing 400 pounds, or 300 pounds. It just makes life really difficult at that age. Or maybe your why is like, you're in your 50s and your 60s and you're starting to think about aging, right? So my first lesson is, before you take any journey, weight loss journey, is to ask yourself why. Do you want to climb a mountain on a bike with your bike team, and that's why you want to lose weight? So therefore you got to get lighter to climb? You want to be close to your kids? Or do you want to have the longevity to be closer as you age? And I don't know if there's any senior citizens on the line, but let me just play this one video real quick. I think you guys will enjoy it. So let me go ahead and play this. You guys hear the sound okay? You guys hear that?
Yes. Oh, I don't hear anything.
Is it clear or no?
It's clear, we just can't hear. No.
With your grandchild.
Can't hear? Okay, let me go ahead and stop.
Hey Ramsey, we can hear it until you speak up, and then it goes quiet.
Okay, let me go ahead and let me stop my video. Let me stop my share and do it again real quick. Stop sharing 1 second. Sorry guys, I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a, this is my first time, doing anything like this for an audience like this. So just here to help share some of my learnings. So here we go. So desktop 2, let's try it again. All right. You guys see my screen okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so let me try it again. Better?
Strong enough to embrace every moment. Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
So that's emotional, right? I mean, it's like, what is your why? Are you at that point where you're starting to age? Your parents, what do you want to tell you? Like we, at this age, in middle age, your teens, your whatever, we have control over our future of what it's going to look like, and so that could be your why. You just have to really understand, what is your why. Number 2, my biggest lesson learned is having a clear vision and a clear goal. Arnold is like one of my favorite people in the world. Listening to his motivation, I really love his content. I love what he has to say. But like his whole world, he's probably one of the most successful people that you probably have ever met or heard of or whatever. And it's because he has these principles that he follows. And the net of it is that you really have to understand what is that you want, and what is it that you want to create. And that principle applies to anything in life. So let's play Arnold's way about how to have a clear vision and a goal. I love this because I
always shoot for the top, because I always feel like if you have a great vision and if you think big, then you're also going to end up big. If you think little, by accident, no one ever has gotten big. You have to have a very clear vision of where you want to go in your career. You cannot get into bodybuilding and think that just by exercising every day, that by accident you're just going to be a world champion. As I said earlier, you have to have a very clear vision and you have to see it in front of you. And then you got to go and shoot for the stars. The bigger you shoot, the further you go. Did I want to be another Reg Park? Did I want to be in London winning the Mr. Universe contest? I saw myself with the trophy in the hand. I saw hundreds of bodybuilders around me looking up at me, idolizing me, and thousands of people up there cheering and standing ovation. That's what I saw. And exactly 5 years later, with 5-6 hours of training like a fanatic, I was standing on that stage in London, and I won the Mr. Universe contest with the age of 20 as the youngest Mr. Universe ever. That teaches you right away a lesson, because the lesson was for me, you got to have a clear vision and then go after that vision. Why is that important? Because it brings joy to you. Every set that I did, every rep that I did, every 500 pounds I lifted, every 1,000 sit-ups that I did brought me joy, because it took me one step closer to turning that vision into reality.
And I think that's the most powerful statement that any of us can take on our weight loss journey. You know, it's like, it sucks dieting. You know, if you're going to reduce your calories or not have sugar and go carbs or whatever, all this is difficult. Everything that you do, it doesn't have to be difficult. And that's the stage I'm at now, which I'm hopeful that you guys can walk away with the feeling that, you know, you can go through this transformation without it being difficult. But if you have a clear vision, the process of working towards that vision needs to drive some level of fulfillment. And that's how we're going to have a way to get to a sustainable journey to being healthy for the rest of our lives when we're 60s and or 70s, not just to support a weight loss challenge or not just to drop a few pounds to go to the beach. It's like, we got to get to a point where we can live a life to where we're healthy, we're happy, we feel good, and we're making a change to our body physically with our body composition and our health metrics. And so having a clear vision and understanding that you can really enjoy the process as you go along the way. Lesson number 2. Lesson number 3. Oof, I love this. Because this is not what they teach you in school. Like, this is all of you on the phone that I know, like Venkat even joined. Thank you for joining, Venkat. It's one of my business partners. Like, you all are very successful. Dr. Alo, perfect example of this. Like Zuhair, all of you guys have the ability to will yourself into anything you want because you're overachievers. You can will yourself to get down to 130 pounds, 150 pounds. How? You have a goal, which is the outcome. You have a process. I'm going to stop eating sugar, whatever your step you're going to take, and you just do it. And it's so painful. You finally achieve that goal. And this was my problem back when I did my Ironman, is that I didn't change my identity. And James Clear, who's the author of Atomic Habits, really brought that insight to me and really helped me kind of flip my mindset and to help hopefully create something that's more sustainable long-term, where I can be comfortable in my body being fit. Because I always used to say to myself, you know, I'm just the fat guy in a skinny person body now. So as soon as I would finish the event, whether it's a triathlon or, you know, marathon or whatever, or a weight loss challenge, or we're done with going to the beach, whatever it is, you go back to your old habits. Subconsciously, you go back to your old habits because you're still a fat man in a skinny person body, right? And then what happens is you just gain the weight right back up subconsciously. And there's science to prove that. And I can talk about that in another slide. Whereas if you can shift and reframe what it is that you're trying to do in your weight loss challenge, or whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, if you shift the narrative to being from going just to the outcome, I'm going to lose 20 pounds, or I'm going to lose 50 pounds in the next 30 days by not eating sugar, is that if you flip it to be somebody who's going to lose X amount of weight, because you're a person who works out, because you're a person who's healthy, because you're an athlete, as an example, because you live a healthy lifestyle every day, because this is who you are, then your identity shifts. And then when your identity shifts, the things you do and the outcomes will come into play afterwards, and it's sustainable. Now, when I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see myself as the fat guy in a skinny person body anymore. You know, I see myself as an athlete because I am an athlete. This is who I am. And hopefully, because I've shifted that mentality, I found a place to where I can, you know, sustain this long term. Lesson number 3. I don't know. I hope that makes sense. Lesson number 4. is to build a sustainable plan and routine. So again, going back to the point where everybody says, damn, dieting sucks. Everybody makes fun of my friend Abe, who's here at the place helping me with this remodel, because Abe always wins the weight loss challenge every single year. And they claim Abe wins the weight loss challenge. Why? Because he doesn't eat. It's true. He does cut his calories significantly, and it's painful and it sucks, but he always wins, right? And there's some, kind of after the weight loss challenge, some of the weight starts to come back and stuff like that, but you can't sustain a life that you cut your calories down in half, right? You're not happy. You're hangry. You're uncomfortable. And the outcome is great because you lost the weight and you finally look at yourself in the mirror like, wow, I like this version of myself, but is this sustainable? So let's say you lose 50 pounds and you get back to a point where you finally achieve your goal because you're an overachiever. And then you let yourself go. It's too much energy. And then you go back to your old ways, right? You put the weight back on, even some, which is very common. Where does that leave you? It left you with nothing. You had a short period of kind of like, I really liked who I was back then, or like how I felt back then, but now I'm worse than I was before. So basically all that you invested to kill yourself, to wait for that massive weight loss, is for naught, right? So the key is, in my opinion, now that I'm in my 40s, is it's not about the goal. It's not about just getting down. It's not about doing whatever it takes to get there. I want to get there. But if it takes me a year to get there rather than a month or 2 months, who cares? I'm not, unless there's an event coming on where you have a triathlon or an event cycle, that's different. But I'm saying in general, if your goal is to try to drive long-term health and get to a point where it's sustainable, you can do it. And I'm living proof that you could do it because I continue to drive transformation in my body. And my body composition continues to change day by day. I'm losing weight, and I love it. I actually enjoy the food I eat. I enjoy the exercise every single day. But I created a plan that was sustainable. And if you think about it, when you create a plan that's sustainable, it's also helpful that you incorporate a routine in that plan. So my particular plan, I create a whole program. It's every single morning I wake up, I do my prayer, I journal, I reflect on the day before, I kind of plan out my day. Then I get to my workout. And after my workout, I do my little protein shake or whatever it is. But I created a plan that I enjoy, that I love. You do you, whatever it is, if you want to work out at night. But then follow the program because you enjoy it. I don't know who's that. That's not on me. Abdu. Okay, here we go. Abdu's a beast. Anyway, so you got to create your plan that has to be sustainable. And I want you to think about the routine. Many of you don't have a routine. And I want you to think about the basketball players when they take free throw shots. The best free throw shooters in the world, every free throw shooter, more or less in the NBA, does the exact same way when they make a jump shot. When they make a free throw. They bounce the ball a couple times, they shoot it up, and they can score the shot 90% of the time, which is incredible. And the reason why they could do it is because they eliminate the complexities around them and they create a routine. So once you have a plan that's sustainable, whatever that plan is, a weight loss plan, whether it's going to be, calorie deficit, whether it's going to be, keto, whatever it is that you do you. Stick to the plan as long as it's sustainable for a long term, and then work the plan based on a routine that you follow. And I talked to Jamil, who's on the phone recently. He talked about he's got this new diet and he's happier than he's ever been because he's in a routine. I think the routine is more effective in helping you find balance in your mind than necessarily an exercise plan and a diet potentially. So come up with a routine that makes sense for you. So this is a weight loss lessons learned. So I want to share my plan as you guys kind of put together your plan. I have an entire program that I've created. Again, this is just a webinar for family and friends. I'm not selling anything. None of this is, being cost, there's no cost to you, but you can take a look at my plan. This is what's worked for me. I'm 42 years old. I don't follow this to the T, but I try to get myself to a calorie intake that's less than what I'm burning on a regular basis to be in a slight deficit. And I try to do that in such a way to where I don't feel hungry and I actually enjoy the food that I eat. And so when I'm dialing in to trying to really, maybe tighten up a little bit, I try to get myself within 1,800 calories a day, 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. like Sean and some of my trainers think I should probably be at 2,200 calories, which is probably the amount of intake I do. So I don't have any low carb. I don't really mind so much what I eat. I just try to eat healthy, and I try to manage my total calorie intake. And in your case, you may be doing low carb, you may be doing, keto, you may be doing, intermittent fasting. All that stuff is just one method potentially to get to a point where you're burning more calories than you're consuming. I'm just doing it in a way where I can eat whatever I want. A lot of people call that intuitive eating, and that's cool. Call it whatever you want. You whatever you want, just as long as you don't eat too much. Because if you consistently eat too much, that's where you'll gain weight. And we'll ask more questions at the end, where Dr. Alo can kind of talk through the different types of weight loss programs and see what scientifically suggests a program. In addition to having a solid diet, I also have a workout routine that I put together every single day. So I have a plan. I say every single day, 5 to 6 days a week, I'm going to do some level of weight resistance training. And over the weekends, I'm going to do some cardio because I enjoy it. I've been doing this for a period of time, so I can exercise every single day, and I love it. It makes me feel good. You may want to start with 2 or 3 days a week. That may be your plan, but that's cool. Whatever you feel right for your body as you build up to your level of endurance and strength, it's on you. But I want you to know that anytime you need any help, you could just click on the link. My entire plan and program is accessible on Evernote. It's intense. You can pick and choose whatever you want, but it's all there, and it's it's it at no charge at all. So that's my plan. You do you. The other thing that I want to mention is around calorie management. There's a lot of different tools out there that help you track calories. A lot of people use FitnessPal. Whenever I dial in and I want to start really slimming down, let's say I let myself go for a few months and I'm bulking and I want to drop 5-10 pounds, whatever it might be, there's apps out there called MyFitnessPal, and they're fantastic. But if you get yourself into a trap and you only dial in when you're using the app, because the app will tell you as you log your food exactly how many calories you've consumed. It'll tell you based on the database. It'll tell you your macros, which are incredible because it'll help you figure out your balance of proteins and fats and carbs. If that's important to you in your weight loss journey, it was very important to me because I felt like a higher protein diet and lower carb made me feel better. It helped me eat less calories and get full faster, and help you build more muscle. And there's some science to back, higher protein diets, but that's how I did. You could do you. And the app will actually help you set goals in terms of the amount of protein you want, the amount of carbs, all that, and actually track against it. But here's the lesson that I've learned from these fitness trackers is that you need to use the fitness trackers not to help you just dial in for the time that you're doing it. You need to use the fitness trackers to teach you how to eat. So when you go back to your program and you finally get to a point, it took me 6 months to get to a point where I had this program I don't actually follow it, to the hour and stuff like that. It's just kind of a framework, right? To where I actually ate this food and then I logged it and netted out those calories and those macros, and I loved it. I wasn't hungry and it was sustainable. I can follow this type of program for the rest of my life and feel totally happy. I'm in a weight loss journey and yet not miserable. How does that work? It works by understanding yourself and understanding how you're eating. So those fitness trackers are great specifically for that purpose. Make sure that when you use a fitness tracker is that you're using it to teach yourself how to manage your portions, what was working for you, how to get your proteins up and your carbs down. All right. Lesson number 5. I hope this isn't just a show up and throw up. I hope you guys are actually finding this really interesting. This is one of the most effective things that I've done in terms of reframing my identity for my transformation is visualization. My next lesson is visualize who you are in terms of your identity always in every workout that you do. And every meal that you make. You have to see yourself not being that fat guy in that skinny person body, but you have to see yourself as being that fit person, being happy with who you are. And this is probably the best illustration of that, is this little video here.
I remember that when I weighed 245 pounds,
And Bob Raferson, the director of Stay Hungry, said to me that I'm interested in having you come in for a reading and work on your acting and all this because I'm interested in having you in a movie to star with Jeff Bridges and with Sally Fields. I was delighted about that. I was excited and I started pumping up more and more. And then he said, but I don't want you to weigh more than 210 pounds. You want me to be in the movie, but I'm weighing 245, 246. I say, I just won the Olympia, I say, which was 1974, and I was really at my biggest. And but he demanded that, and he says, look, it's very simple. On the day we start shooting, he says, I'm gonna put you on a scale, and if you don't make the 210, you're out, because I have someone else in mind. And I worked on it. I started visualizing myself very clearly as a lean athlete, because that's the only way I could lose that weight and all of a sudden get interested in running more, because up until that point I ran like 3 miles after training or before training or whatever, but now all of a sudden it was 5 miles, 6 miles, 7 miles, 8 miles, and they even ran mini marathons in order to lose the weight, and I did everything with high reps, and I was watching my diet, what I eat and all those kind of things. And but the day before, I remember we were in Birmingham, Alabama. The day before I was at the YMCA with Bob Raferson. He was swimming and I was working out and I was running. There was a track there and I was running. He says, let's step on the scale. And I stepped on the scale and I weighed 209. So it just shows you what is possible if you visualize exactly what you want to look like.
I do this every single day. Every single day. This is why I love my morning workouts. I mean, Abe was here working out with me this morning. He got to experience it where I really dial in when I'm training. And it's mindset more than the physical aspect, because you can see yourself as that guy, whoever that guy that you want to be, or that girl or whatever. You see yourself not as that fat guy in that skinny body, but you see yourself being that Iron Man, being that fit guy, being that role model for your kids. You see yourself every movement. And that's really what's really helped me.
I remember that when we...
Next thing is a relationship with food. I've always really had a hard time with this. And a lot of people talk about relationship with food. I don't know if anybody's in the kind of like the social kind of circles of psychology and psychiatry and all that stuff. It's actually kind of funny to think about. So you can have a relationship with food. One of my friends, Philip, I don't know if he's done or not, but he recommended I read a book called The Hungry Brain. It's by this guy named Stephen Guy. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. He's a neuroscientist, and he's done a lot of study on why people eat and the psychology of food and things of that nature. And you know, we've got this instinct, right? As food is fuel or food is reward. You know, like you go after it, it gets a dopamine hit, the food, and then like the more you eat, and the more like you get this dopamine hit, and it's kind of this vicious cycle, kind of like you're always eating. And then what happens is like you crave the food because you need that joy from that food. And that's cool. Food is awesome. Food, I love food. Anybody that knows me knows that I've got an appetite. I'm Dr. Nitro. I make ice cream, you know, for kids. I just love it. There's joy that comes from the food, right? There's a dopamine hit, but there's also joy that comes from other sources. And the joy that you get from other sources could be like exercise. It could be it could be, spending time with your family. There's other sources of that dopamine hit, right? But this whole food as a reward, you have to be conscious of it. You got to be conscious of why it is that you're eating the food at that time. Because sometimes I won't just eat because I just love it, because that was the net of his book. People love to eat because it tastes good. They love it. I'm like, yeah, of course people love food. Of course they're going to want to eat because they love it. But sometimes I used to eat because it was available. I would eat because I'm stressed. I would just keep going in the pantry and go grabbing food all the time, right? And then if I would eat something, and I think all of you are in this circle, if you eat something, let's say you have have some ice cream when you go out with some friends, you get guilty. Or you go in that pantry and you have that Oreo cookie, you have one and then you get a dopamine hit, then you have another one, then you feel guilty. So now you feel like you need another one because now you need another dopamine hit because you feel bad about it. So it's this vicious cycle, right? Whereas if you kind of rethink why you're doing it, right? And recognize according to Dr. Alo's scientific studies and all the scientists that are out there that understand the caloric deficit type of theory of weight gain, is that no food is really bad food. If you guys think of it like this, all food is energy, it's fuel. So you can have that cupcake, you can have that donut, it's just a different source of fuel. And in fact, let me put this in perspective. Everybody says candy is bad for you, right? Well, candy is fuel. I have a few guys on my cycle team on the phone. We go for 100-mile rides. You can't do a 100-mile ride without the candy. The candy gives you instant energy because it's instantly absorbed in your bloodstream as sugar, which powers you immediately. You'll deplete the energy immediately. And then if you have too much of it, you'll start to gain weight because it's around the calories. But you never feel guilty when you're on a long ride, do you? Some of my friends on the bike team are here. Like, no, of course not, because you needed that food for fuel. So why do you feel guilty if you're going to go have that donut? The captain's on the line. He sends pictures all the time with his friends at the office, the doctor's office. They're, sharing donuts. That's the worst place in the world is the hospital, right? Because you're always sharing donuts. But it's okay. Have that donut if you want it. Maybe try not to have the whole thing, have a part of it, right? But recognize this at 300 or 400 calories, and you're going to use it as fuel. And maybe manage it so you eat it a little bit less from other parts of your day. But also know that that donut is not nutrient dense. So you're going to be feeling like sluggish. You're not going to feel good. So when you choose healthy foods that are nutrient rich, like let's say you choose, some health food, like some fruits and vegetables and, oatmeal as an example, I feel is like a superfood. It energizes you and you feel good throughout the day because the energy is released over a period of time. And so then you start making choices, not necessarily just based on, whatever's available, but it's for fuel. What fuel do you need for the day? Like I always, before my workouts in the morning, try to have a granola bar or a little bit of oatmeal because I need the energy for the workout. So just think of food not as a reward. It's okay to love it, but feel like it's fuel and not feel guilty when you eat it. It's like, make love to that food, right? I don't know. It's kind of an inside joke for anybody listening. All right, the next thing that I want to share with you guys is around the network. And over here, I got the captain on the screen over here. And I don't know what an impact some of the people on the cycle team know that they've made in my life personally. It's because they became a support network for me to get back into the identity of being fit again. Between the time when I did my Ironman in 2015 till 2021, I really kind of let myself go a little bit and I lost that part of my identity. And so when I met Riz, who's on the phone, Dr. Begg, Faisal, the captain, who's also a physician, and the rest of the crew, is like, I really reconnected with the fact that, I am an athlete. I love this. I love to cycle. I love to get out. And we encourage each other. Riz would text me like once every other day to see how I'm doing with my psych trainer road training, see if I'm actually riding, how's my diet, am I dialed in and all that stuff. And it was a support network, right? And the same thing happens within your environment. If you don't connect with people that have shared interests that want to see you get better, or if you have an environment that's putting bad food in front of you all the time, your environment will always win. It will always win because eventually you'll revert back because it takes energy to go against the environment, to go against the core. So I really want you guys to listen to this part of the TED Talk that I listened to at one point of an analogy that really got me to understand how important it is to know the elephant in the room.
5% of the time is what I call people sleeping awake.
This is the subconscious.
I'll give you an analogy.
And
Well, imagine that the conscious mind is an ant. Here he is, cute little fella. Ants are industrious.
He said the conscious mind is the ant. I'm sorry, I talked over him.
They're hardworking, they're determined, they're going to get the job done. This is your conscious mind. In fact, this particular ant went to a personal development seminar last week. He set his goals, and he's marching north confidently in the direction of his achievements. The problem is, he's marching over the back of an elephant that's heading south. Our unconscious mind, with all of our limiting patterns, limiting beliefs, and all of the other unresolved self-issues that go on there. And we start to see why we self-sabotage. See, how do you get that elephant moving in the right direction? Let me give you another example, another analogy. The mind is like a compass needle. In fact, it can only point in one direction at a time. But when we're operating from our ants, that 5% of the time where we're conscious and using free will, we can grab that compass needle and we can point it anywhere. That's what free will allows us to do. And if we're feeling down, we can go choose to watch a comedy or call a friend who can cheer us up. And if we're feeling low on energy, we can go put the kettle on and make ourselves a coffee or a drink. But 95% of the time, we're not doing that. And as soon as we let our hand off of that compass needle consciously, it will always drift back to its default magnetic north, which unfortunately for most people is more negative than positive. See? And that leads us to our third challenge. And that is something you may want to really tattoo on the inside of your eyelids. And that is that environment trumps will. What do I mean by that? I mean that our intention will always be beaten by our environment over time. For example, let's say that you're a music fan, but you don't like jazz. That's for the other people. You're kind of a country and western kind of guy or girl. And you listen to country and western in the car going to work, but your car's broken down this week, so your good neighbor around the corner that works at the same place has offered to give you a lift. So you're going to share the 45-minute drive to work and back for the next 5 days. But they listen to jazz. Now, I don't care what you think consciously. Within 3 days, I know what's going to happen. Within 3 days in the car, you're tapping your feet to the beat. Within 5 days, you're humming it in the shower. You see, we don't get to choose whether or not we get programmed. We're programmable by design. We can only choose how we want to be programmed. Another way of saying that is you can have all of the intention to be as warm and hot as you like. You can raise your body temperature. You can put on some big clothes. But if you choose to live in a freezer, the environment's going to win over time. In other words, you can read all of the positive affirmations. You can stand in front of the mirror and say that you believe in yourself. But if you live with somebody who is constantly pulling you down, somebody who is reminding you of why you're not good enough and why it won't work.
I think you guys get the idea. So you got to understand that we're all ants in this journey and weight loss, right? And we're on this subconscious world of being on this top of this elephant that's going in a direction. And we got our compass needle and we're moving towards a path, but we have to recognize what the elephant is of the room, which is your environment. And my friends, the network I've chosen, being on the bike team, they're on the same path as me. And so we're moving in the same path, so you got to really understand the elephant of the room if you want to have sustainable change in your life. When it comes to
5% of the time is what I call people sleep.
It's called weight loss. And if you want help, if you want a network, I'm here every single day. I host Zoom classes every single morning just for friends. And so if you want to come join me and do my workout program and you do you and I do me, you're welcome to come join in every single morning. I try to do it after my prayer around 6:45 is where we're starting right now. The time might change a little bit over time, but just come in, just need a bench. If you want a bench and some dumbbells and you go at your pace, you build yourself up. I have some people like one of my customers, Swami, who he's never weightlifted before. And he is absolutely in love with these workouts that we're doing today every single morning. We have Pugal and a few others and some of my coworkers and some of my friends every single day. We're connecting. So I would love to have you. Just send me an email and come join. It's free of charge. I'll teach you some different techniques that I'm learning. We'll make sure that we cover all your different body parts multiple times per week and really activate the muscle. All right, man, this is taking a lot longer than I thought, but that's okay. Hopefully this is good content, right? And then we'll open up the Q&A with Dr. Alo at the end. Hopefully you have time, Dr. Alo. Thank you so much for joining. All right, lesson number 8, and this is probably one of the best lessons I've got in this whole process, is consistently good is better than occasionally great. Let me say that again. Consistently good, meaning don't kill yourself, don't push yourself too hard, don't do this crash diet and starve yourself, or don't do this high intensity exercise to where you get killed, is better than, or is consistently good to where you could do something that's it's a decent workout, you feel good about what you did, or you manage your calories, you didn't eat too much today. Consistently over time is better than crash diet. It's better than a great crazy workout that you can't sustain. And the science has proven over time, it makes a much bigger impact because it's sustainable. So whatever you do, you want to do something that's sustainable. So you have to love the food that you're eating, whether it's healthy. You have to love doing the workout and not feel like it sucks, it hurts. I don't want to go back and work out, because you literally won't go back and work out if it hurts, right? So just manage it. And just to prove how powerful that is, of course, we talked about the atomic habits earlier. He has this whole theory of being a 1% improvement over a daily period within a year gets you a 37% improvement, or 35 times improvement over the year. So just improving a little bit every single day will yield huge, huge results. And going back to the whole concept of consistently good is better than occasionally great. Occasionally great leads to injury. When you really kill yourself, you get hurt, and then you don't get the muscle growth. So why do that? Why kill yourself on an intense ride, or why try to lift heavier weights to where you can't even do it? You're not going to achieve the muscle growth. It's proven scientifically that muscle growth happens with as you activate the muscles through progressive overload, they call it. So adding a little bit of weight per week over a period of time, eventually you get stronger. And as long as you activate the muscle to where you're not pressing, to where it knows it needs to exist, then your muscles will grow. And there's different ways to activate it through progressive overload. Either you put more weight, or you do more reps, or you do slower reps, or do different forms. So there's a lot of ways of doing that. The ninth lesson: if you don't use it, you'll lose it. The ninth lesson is you really need to build a relationship with your muscle and your body to where you can connect with it on a regular basis over time. So this guy on the screen, his name is Joe Linder. This guy is he's a funny, muscle bodybuilder guy that's on Instagram. He's hilarious, right? Well, one time he tore his muscle, because this is a really important concept. Is he tore his muscle one time, his bicep, and he couldn't train it for 2 weeks. So just imagine that you have a cast on, you're not using your arm for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. What happens when you remove the cast? It basically looks like this. Look how dramatic the difference is between one arm and the other arm. Even if he's not flexing the left arm, he's being a little bit dramatic. Still, it's a significant difference, a big reduction in the amount of muscle. So when you're weight training, and every set that you do, you have to communicate with each part of the body through resistance that the muscle needs to be there. So you build a relationship with your body as you're exercising. You're communicating with it that to use the fat that's in your body as energy, and not use the muscle that's just sitting there as energy. In the case that you have a cast, your body doesn't know that it needs the muscle there anymore. So it starts to use that muscle as a source of energy. So your muscles will drop, and then you're left with fat. In the case of running, when you're running for a long period of time and you're doing this endurance and you start to get a little bit smaller, what happens when you run is that your body doesn't change because, or in terms of the muscle composition, because of the fact that you're just doing cardio. There's no resistance. So your body doesn't need it, needs the muscle. So you're going to get skinny fat. You'll lose weight, but you also lose muscle. With weight resistance, which I really enjoy, is you can activate the muscle. You can activate the body. And you can teach your body to build the muscle by telling it needs to be there. So this whole communication between your body, understand that your body needs the signals that the muscle needs to be there. It will grow over time. So you can reprogram that. You have to dial in. And so there's a certain level of intensity that needs to happen in that process. All right, the last lesson, drum roll please, is that those who stay will be champions. That's Bo Schumback from Michigan used to have that motto. If you put together a plan, you've got the right mindset, you have a real reason for what it is that you're doing, and you go down this journey, and after like a few days into it, you don't see a weight loss, you actually see weight gain. It's because your weight resistance training, you're building muscle, and your body hasn't really transformed the fat just yet. I'll tell you a story about what happened when I started the journey again with Riz, a year and a half ago when I started weight training with him. For the first 2 months, I didn't see any weight loss. It was crazy. I was at 210 pounds. I got, 205 pounds or so around that period for 2 months, no change. Then all of a sudden after 2 months, I started feeling better. But then that next month, I dropped 15 pounds. because I started to deplete my body. I let go of that fat. And so I stayed with it consistently. Then I got to the point where I wanted to be, and I enjoyed it the entire process, but I trusted it and I stayed with it. And so your journey might be a little daunting a little bit. You may not see the results right away, but you got to really trust the process and just keep taking the steps every single day. And an analogy I'm going to leave you guys with before we open this up to Q&A with Dr. Alo is this story from Will Smith. He's one of my favorite people in the world, whether or not he slaps people, it doesn't matter. But Will Smith is awesome. There's a story about when he was a kid and his father asked him to build a wall. He thought it was crazy. So he has this whole kind of story on, and his father kept telling him just to lay another brick.
This one year, my father had his shop, and he decided for whatever reason that he wanted a new wall on the front of his shop. So he tore down probably about 16 feet high and probably about 30 feet long. He just completely tore the wall down, and my brother and I had to dig a 6-foot hole. We
For the foundation.
For the foundation, and we would mix in the concrete by hand. A year and a half. We were building this wall for a year and a half. Every day after school, we would come in, mixing concrete, putting it in the hole, doing it, and it was just myself and my little brother. And I remember standing back, looking at that wall, saying, there's going to be a hole here forever. A year and a half later, we laid the final brick. And my father stood back and he looked at me and my brother and said, don't y'all never tell me that you can't do something. And walked into the shop. This 1 year.
You see, that's the whole story. You have to trust the process. Every day you work, you got to love the fact that you're working out. You're dialed in. You're visualizing yourself as that future version of yourself, that best version of yourself. And you just love it. And you're laying that brick every single day. You may not be down the 50, 60, 80 pounds, whatever you want to get to, but you're laying that brick. And the fact that you're laying that brick, it gives you a sense of joy. Tony Robbins had this one expression that I really loved. He's like, progress is happiness. Like, think about that. Progress is happiness. It's not the destination that's the happiness. It's the progress. We're laying those bricks. We're building that wall. We're striving to be the best version of ourselves. For whatever reason, we want to be that version of ourselves in the process of this transformation. So that's my top 10 list. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Now, Dr. Alo is in the house. Let's give it up. You can unmute yourself if you want. Dr. Alo.
Yeah, hey, how are you?
I asked 45 minutes. Now we're at 58 minutes, and now we're going to open this up to Q&A. Everybody, please give it up for Dr. Mohammed Alo. Go ahead. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Mohammed Alo. I'm a cardiologist and a certified personal trainer. If I cut out, I'll reconnect. I'm driving back from Indiana. I was just giving a lecture about weight loss, actually, to a bunch of physicians. But if I cut out, I'll reconnect. But it's like been going in and out of service. But yeah, I've been teaching weight loss, wrote a number of books on it. If you guys have any questions, I agree with everything you've said. That's pretty much the philosophy that I follow. And that's how I teach my patients or other physicians or people that I train to lose weight. Definitely want to pick something sustainable that is easy to do, that you enjoy. Like you said, it's better than doing some crash diet or some crash exercise program that's unsustainable and gives you quick fix results that you just can't maintain long term.
I love it. So he just published a new book, Actual Weight Loss. You want to talk a little bit about your book real quick, and then we'll open up the Q&A. We lose you? Oh, man. I think we lost him. Oh, no, I don't see him.
He's probably in Gary, Indiana right now.
Sorry, guys.
I just said I want you to plug your book real quick before we open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, you can go to Amazon, just type in Actual Weight Loss. Both of my books will come up. One is a cookbook. It's a calorie-based Mediterranean diet cookbook that helps you lose weight while eating healthy. The chapter is broken down by calories. There's like 2,400, 2,600, 2,200, 2,000. Very flavorful, very nutritious, low saturated fat, low sodium. Makes it a lot easier. The Actual Weight Loss book is like bunch of stories, a bunch of studies, you know, how to lose weight sustainably in a healthy way without crazy fad diets or food restrictions or food phobias. Kind of like you were talking about the ice cream or whatever it was.
Exactly. All right, so let's open it up. Anybody has got any questions, you can type it in. You can open, unmute yourself. Cheat days. I love that. Norman, what do you think about cheat days, Dr. Alo?
Cheat days, I'm not a big fan. Like if you're restricting your food and then one day you're gonna like binge or eat, there's no reason to do that. Just eat what you like. If you're like that gives you like that whole diet trauma and that whole diet culture. You really don't want to be in a place where you feel like you need a cheat day. Like if you like biryani or gulab jamuns or sambusak or whatever it is, just eat it. Just make sure it fits into your overall dietary plan, calorie count, whatever it is. If you feel like you need to binge or go on a cheat day or whatever, you're probably doing it wrong. But if you really want to, go for it. Just don't go too crazy. But I mean, like you really shouldn't be restricting food so much and avoiding foods so much that you actually feel like you need to have a cheat day. You should just be eating foods that you enjoy, nutritious stuff. Like there's no reason to avoid pizza. If you like pizza, eat a little bit of pizza. It's not the end of the world. You can't eat pizza every day, but if you want to, you can. You can eat 1 or 2 slices. That's about 600-700 calories. Just make sure that it fits into your overall dietary pattern or dietary plan, calorie count, whatever you want to call it, and that it's overall still healthy and still causes weight loss. I'm not really a big fan of assigning cheat meals or cheat days. Just eat it. You have to develop a good relationship with food and exercise, kind of like you talked about, which is also more sustainable. You'll be happier. You won't be as crazy or hangry or any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some people that think that there's some science behind having cheat days. They feel like having a cheat day actually resets the metabolism. What's the science behind that?
So there is research on diet breaks and refeeds. So if you've been dieting for 12 weeks in a row, going much longer than that, you have like diminishing return. So what we usually have people do is after 3 months in a calorie deficit, increase their calories back up to maintenance level, and then do that for about the same amount of time, if not more. So you go up to maintenance level at for 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months if you want. That does bring your metabolism back up. You lose less lean body mass, and your body doesn't go into this metabolic adaptation, which we like to avoid. Metabolic adaptation is your body adapts the amount of calories and activity that you are doing and makes it harder and harder for you to lose weight as time goes on. So this does kind of reset that. So we usually have people drop to a calorie deficit for 3 months, 12 weeks, and then go back up for like 4 or 5 months, maybe 6, however much you want. In the winter time, people like the bulk or surplus or go up to maintenance. That's fine too. And then just shred from January to March so that you'll be ready for like summer season. But there's definitely the El Matador study. If you want to look it up, the El Matador study shows that refeeds or diet breaks definitely helps. It might take twice as long, but you retain lean body mass and you could diet for longer without the mental and physical difficulty and anguish.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it's okay to eat. I love that. So who else has any questions? Who else? I know that a number of guys, is Jamil on the line? There's questions on keto.
Hey, Shabab. Hey, Ramsey, thank you for that PowerPoint. Took a lot from that.
Yeah, the audio is cutting out. I don't know if I hear you.
Okay, so I have a question.
That's better.
I have a question, doctor. Does the older you get, isn't it harder to lose weight? Or is that the caloric deficit? Like maybe when you're in your teens, you can eat 2,500 or 2,700 calories, where when you get in your 20s, you have to go to 23, and then in the 30s. Because there's people in their 60s, like they don't eat, but they don't lose weight. They're not eating and they're not losing weight.
Yeah, so if you're not eating and you're not losing weight, you have metabolic adaptation. Those people, we actually have to increase their calories, get them up to a new maintenance level. It's like 2,500, 2,800, whatever it is. I'm just throwing numbers out there. It could be just 1,800 for you, whatever. Get them up to a new maintenance, stay there for sometimes even a year or two, and then dropping their calories a little bit causes weight loss. Herman Ponzer out of Duke University, Dr. Herman Ponzer, has written a book called Burn. He goes through all the studies. He actually is like a calorie metabolism expert. He's gone through all the data. He's been studying different people for like 20 years. He did a study where they took people as young as 6 months old and up to 95 years old, had them drink doubly labeled water, and actually measured their metabolism. Your metabolism is much higher before the age of 20, but once you hit about 20 straight to 20 to 60, your metabolism is the same. And then 60 to about 75, there's a slight drop. And 75 to 80, there's a little bit of a drop. And then 95 or so, there's another drop. But from about 20 to 60, your metabolism really doesn't change. But from age 30 to 50, most people gain about 1 pound per week for lots of other reasons. Lack of interest, no sustainability, yo-yo dieting, whatever it is. But most people gain about 1 pound a year from age 30 to about 50. But it's not your metabolism. Generally, it's just that you're not in a calorie deficit. You don't care. You're not tracking. You're not as active as before. You're eating more hyperpalatable foods that are more calorie dense, so you don't feel full, so you eat a little bit more. It's a lot of those things together, but it's definitely not your metabolism.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, Ramsey was talking about keto, and I'm on this keto diet right now. And before, I was probably eating like 2,500 calories a day, and I wasn't getting full. I wasn't getting satisfied. But now I'm on this diet. I'm eating, meats and a lot of fats, moderate protein, low carbs, and it's getting me full on like 1,800 calories. So, I mean, I'm seeing a drop in weight loss. So I guess that's what's working for me. And I noticed last year, because I was doing the weight loss challenge, and I won last year, by the way. Abe didn't win. I won last year.
Hey, you guys tied. You tied.
So, yeah, tied.
Anyway, go ahead.
I noticed I was buying these organic stuff, and I was buying, organic fruits and good oats, low calorie bread, but it still wasn't even filling me up as much as like the meats and the chicken and stuff like that. So
yeah, so the reason keto style diets work like Atkins and whatnot is protein is very satiating. It's the most satiating macronutrient. So if you eat mostly protein or a lot more protein than you did before, you're gonna feel fuller even at a lower calorie count. So that's why that works. The studies on comparing keto versus non-keto, low carb versus high carb versus no carb versus high protein versus low protein, none of that matters if your calories are the same and you're eating the same amount of protein. Isocaloric diets where you're eating in a deficit, same amount of calories, same amount of protein, doesn't matter how much fat or carbs you eat, you're still going to lose around the same amount of body fat or body weight. So that part doesn't matter that much. If you like keto and it seems to keep you on, okay, it's just not a good long-term strategy if you are eating lots of saturated fat, because saturated fat, the more you eat, the more cardiovascular events you have and the more cardiovascular mortality you have. Don't want people eating more than about 5 to 7% of their total calories from saturated fat, because that's when cardiovascular mortality starts to go up. So as long as you keep that down, you'll probably be okay. But yeah, I usually tell people pick the diet that seems to fit into your schedule, fits into your food preferences, the one you can stick to. Keto is generally not one you can stick to. The studies have shown that most people after about 7 months are not really on keto, but they think they are. But they're actually eating more than 120 grams of carbs a day. But when you ask them, they still think they're on keto. It's just not sustainable long term. So I try to teach people, why don't you eat a more balanced diet, something Mediterranean. You can have it be slightly more protein if you want, or less carbs if you want, but something that is more sustainable so that long term, 15, 20 years from now, you still are at the weight that you want. Most people are losing and gaining the same 20 pounds over and over again for 20 years. They go on a diet, like you said, you win the competition. Next year, you're back overweight again. You win the competition again the next year. You lose weight again. You gain it back. I mean, that's like yo-yo dieting. Your body becomes more and more efficient at storing fat. And you gain the weight twice as fast and you lose it twice as slow or at half the rate every time you cycle through that. So you don't want to be like yo-yo dieting all the time because you become super efficient at losing muscle and gaining fat over and over again.
Oh, okay. Tell you, is there a science behind being in ketosis where your body's using the fats as energy instead of the glucose?
Well, there is no science behind. I mean, there is a lot of science behind it, but like, there's no difference. If you're in a calorie deficit, your body's going to use fat, regardless of whether you're eating carbs, protein, or fat. It makes no difference. So if you're eating 1,800 calories of just Twinkies, and there's these studies have been done, but the head of nutrition at Kansas State University, his colleagues saw him eating a Twinkie at lunchtime. They asked him. He told them he was going on a diet. They're like, "How are you going on a diet if you're eating a Twinkie?" He said, "Watch, I'm going to eat only Twinkies. You'll see." He was eating 2,600 calories a day, dropped down to 1,800, ate mostly only Twinkies, Oreos, Doritos, junk food, still got 100 grams of protein a day, lost 28 pounds in 10 weeks, eating basically essentially just junk food. So you will lose weight. It just might not be that easy. Like, you won't feel satiated eating Twinkies. Like, you'll probably eat 100 of them before you actually feel full, and that's like 20,000 calories. So keto doesn't have any magical powers other than if you like that food pattern, you might be able to stick to it longer. But the cardiovascular effects and mortality is much higher if you're eating more saturated fat. And keto diets that are more red meat and processed meats especially have been shown in studies to be more pro-inflammatory. So that's something we definitely don't want. But it really doesn't matter what your calories are. You will lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit, almost regardless of what the calories are composed of. And all those studies that have been done, it's not, those studies have been done, it's been proven. So I usually tell people, eat what you like, it just has to be a lot less. That way you can stick to it for a long time. The key is not to keep losing weight and gaining it. You want to lose weight and basically keep it off.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. Mohammed, you have a question.
So Ramsey and Dr. Alo, want to thank both of you guys for putting this on and for all the great content both of you guys put out for everybody in the community and your friends and family. So thank you for that. I do think you guys differ a little bit on approach towards exercise from what I've heard and seen from both of you. Can you guys speak a little bit more about strength training versus endurance athletic training, or the combination of both, and where each of you are on that kind of where you guys stand on those, that comparison. Some people are very much just strength training, some people are very much more endurance sports training, and I think you guys differ a little bit. Can you guys speak about that?
Well, just to be clear, before you answer this, Dr. Alo, it's actually a funny question, because when I first heard your content, I was like, a cardiologist against cardio? Like, what?
And that's the one thing I would say in my lectures. Don't go home and tell people that the cardiologist said not to do cardio. I'm not against cardio.
This is coming from a guy who does triathlons and stuff. I'm like, who is this guy? I don't get it. Anyways, go ahead.
No, but here's it. Like, the research all shows that cardio absolutely causes way more calorie burn than resistance training, without question. There's no doubt about it. The problem is, what are your goals? If you can control calories, like, here's the problem with cardio. When you exercise, your body wants to keep you maintained at a certain body weight. You're 200 pounds, body wants you to stay 200 pounds. If you start cardio, you'll start losing weight, which most people do, but then hunger satiety signaling changes. Your body wants to get you back up to 200 pounds, or if you start overeating, your body wants you to get down back to 200 pounds. It's a protective mechanism. It's been around forever. It's called your set point. Dr. George Blackburn out of Harvard spent 35 years studying this and has published a book about it called Breakthrough Your Set Point.
As well.
So cardio absolutely, cardio can absolutely cause weight loss, no question about it. But you have to be able to control the calories in. Like calories out, generally for most people, it's about 5% of your total daily energy expenditure. Like, no matter how much exercise you do, you can only really affect 5% of your total daily energy expenditure. It's not going to change all that much. If you lift weights and you increase your muscle mass, your BMR, which is a 70% of your total daily energy expenditure, actually goes up. For every pound of muscle you gain, you actually use up 6 to 8 more calories. So if you put on 20 pounds of muscle, which is not unreasonable for a normal male, you could increase your caloric intake by about 120 or so calories and stay the same weight or lose weight if you're in a deficit, whatever it is. But you can increase your BMR much easier by building muscle. So I'm not anti-cardio. I just don't think it's the most efficient way to lose weight, because the vast majority of people, when they start an exercise program, if it's only cardio, it's going to be very, very difficult unless you're controlling calories to actually create a calorie deficit with just cardio. Don't get me wrong, you can. And the vast majority of people are just not capable of doing it because they're not tracking. They're not sticking to a calorie count. They feel hungry. They go eat. They do intuitive eating. They think they're eating what they're eating, but they're not. Your body outsmarts you because of adaptive thermogenesis and metabolic adaptation. Your body wants to get you back to whatever weight you were at. And most of your friends that pick up running or jogging or biking or whatever it is, they lose weight for a few months and then their body figures it out and they're back to their same starting weight, or their weight starts going back up. Like literally every long-term study shows that the first 2 or 3 months they lose weight. By month 7 or 9, their weight is back to where it started. 12 months, 11 months, 13 months, they might have even gained weight. So it's just not a efficient way to lose weight. Like if you love cardio and you're doing it for fun and endorphins and it's a community support system, same thing with weightlifting, biking, hiking, swimming, jogging, whatever. If you're doing it for fun and you enjoy it, great. But don't think that that's the only way or the most sustainable long-term way to lose weight. Like you have guys that are running 20 miles a week. Like that's insane, especially if you're overweight. You're destroying your knees, your ankles, your neck, whatever it is. It's very hard to maintain that long term. All that pounding on your joints is not good for you. I know you guys do biking, which is different. So it's not destroying your joints as much, but definitely the best way to enhance that would be to add a calorie deficit and track calories, just so you know that you're truly in a deficit. And you know when to stop eating. Like if you hit your 1,800 calories, or I think you said 2,100 in your case, you know not to eat more because you are using cardio and weights and whatever else to also help create a calorie deficit. So those would be my thoughts. I don't know what yours are, but according to Mohammed, we differ.
I don't think we differ. I don't think we differ anymore, I should say. I agree. I've done like long triathlons. I've cycled 100, I'm an endurance athlete. I've become an endurance athlete through my 30s. And I've recognized that my happiest, where I feel the best, is not from endurance training. I do endurance training because I love the guys in the bike team. I do endurance training now because I love going on the nature trail and I love going, for a 6-mile jog. But after I'm done with that long ride with the guys, or if I am starving, and I never am on a deficit, in terms of my calorie when I'm doing these long rides or the long runs, because I just crave more food and sugar, and then I overcompensate. And during the cycling season, when it's high endurance, I'm always gaining weight. I'm bulking up because I can't do a deficit at that point.
And you have to. And you have to, like you said, gummy bears and fruit snacks and things like that you can carry with you to eat are very helpful on those very long rides. And we tell people to do that. You want to be in a surplus actually and put on some fat if you're doing that.
Yeah. So I actually kind of agree with you. I do agree with you 100% in terms of how I feel. You're the scientist, but I believe like the weight training is like an investment. You do that and then you're burning calories throughout the day. There's a whole program around that, but I wholeheartedly believe that to lose weight, the endurance exercises is not the optimal strategy.
How come you didn't know that?
All right, so we have Faisal's got the next question. Doctor, come down. So
hey,
the captain.
How you doing, Dr. Alo? Thanks, Ramsey, for a great session tonight. It's been extremely informative and very inspirational, and we're actually very, very blessed and blessed and fortunate to have you pushing us and having us and being on the squad with us. Dr. Alo, I had a quick question, and we have a couple of cardiologists on the team, and I've posed the same question to them, there is research, and I'm sure you're very intimately aware of this research that shows that stress, highly oxidative activities such as biking, cycling, running at your upper zones, which produce a lot of oxidative stress. We're talking about zones, 3, 4, 5, has atherogenic influences or properties, and it can actually accelerate the atherosclerotic process, especially in individuals who have hyperlipidemia, hypercholesterolemia, from a genetic standpoint. What is your recommendation, and what is your experience with endurance, high-level endurance athletes and early MIs, early high calcium scores, and early accelerated atherosclerosis?
Yeah, so I talk about this a lot in my topics when I'm talking to physicians. Absolutely, extreme endurance athletes have higher cardiovascular mortality, higher coronary artery calcium scores, more sudden cardiac death, more atrial fibrillation, more cardiac arrhythmias, 2.7 times higher mortality depending on how extreme they are. But absolutely, you get all of that if you're an extreme endurance athlete. Now, the number one thing, the most modifiable risk factor that imparts the most risk is LDL cholesterol. You want your LDL cholesterol as low as humanly possible. We know without question that LDL causes atherosclerosis, causes ASCVD or CAD, whatever you want to call it. But without question, it's the LDL that does that. So I don't know what you guys' LDLs are, but you probably are, if you're doing this quite frequently, you probably want it under 100, and to be exceptionally safe, you probably want it under 70. We've actually revised the guidelines. People at the highest risk, according to the European guidelines, we want their LDLs under 40. The Americans want it under 55 and under 85 for the most, majority of people with just 1 or 2 risk factors, which like obesity is one of them, hypertension, diabetes is one of them. So we want people's LDLs way lower now that we have medications where we can drive people's LDLs down to like pretty much almost 0. We've revised the guidelines to where we want them now under 40, under 55, under whatever. But you're absolutely right. Especially have the highest risk of their calcium scores go up. Now we know that when you exercise moderately, your calcium score may go up a little because soft plaques are hardening and being calcified, which makes them more stable. Heart attacks and strokes usually happen from soft plaque rupturing. When it's calcified, it's highly unlikely to rupture or cause a problem. But we do know that people who have higher calcium scores do also have more soft plaques too. But when you exercise moderately, or you take a statin medication to lower your LDL, your soft plaques will calcify and your calcium score might go up slightly. But that would be my response. It definitely does increase mortality and almost all your risk factors, including funny heart rhythms and all kinds of stuff. So definitely extreme endurance athletes, if you're not being seen by a cardiologist and getting your LDL down, you probably might want to.
Oh, that's heavy. All right, so that's good. We got cardiologists on the team, Doc. We're okay.
Make sure you carry around a defibrillator too.
Okay, we got lung doctors, heart doctors, eye doctors. We got all kinds of doctors. We're good. All right, next question. Let's dumb this down a little bit. All right, so my good friend Hyder said, how do you control losing fat versus losing muscle? So when he loses weight, he's not really that that overweight, but when he loses weight, typically he loses muscle while he's losing fat. So how do you maintain more lean while you're losing fat?
So it's really tricky because that is generally what happens. If you lose weight, you will lose some muscle. Now you can mitigate that by eating enough protein. You can actually increase or double the amount of protein you're eating. I don't know how much he weighs, but eat 180 grams of protein up to 220 if you want per day. Lift weights because that protects muscle loss. If you do everything right and you're in a slow deficit, if you're in an extreme deficit, you're going to lose muscle. Like if you're in a 30% calorie deficit from your maintenance, you're going to lose muscle. If you're in a mild deficit, somewhere between 10 and 15%, you'll lose less muscle. If you're somewhere in between the two extremes, you'll lose a little bit more, but not as much. But if you're eating enough protein and lifting weights, additionally, you will protect the amount of muscle you lose, and you could mitigate it and make it less. But the key is to make sure you are actually doing that, but you may not be actually losing muscle, but you think you are because you look smaller. A lot of people are like, oh my God, doc, I'm losing muscle, but they're actually not. They're just losing fat, so they look smaller. But a lot of people just don't know. They don't use calipers. They don't do DEXA scans. They just have no idea. But if you're eating enough protein and lifting weight and in a milder deficit, you're less likely to lose muscle. But absolutely you will if you're in a severe deficit, not getting enough protein and not lifting weight.
Does that answer your question, Hader?
Of course.
It did. Thank you.
All right, cool. So you just got to keep pushing that muscle and that protein, man. All right, next question. I got one from Guinea. So Guinea's so what's your opinion of intermittent fasting, or I should say fasted workouts? Maybe those, I don't understand the question. If it was intermittent fasting or fasted workouts when it comes to, when you're doing weight training and things of that nature.
So this is a two-part question. I literally just gave a talk on all the studies on this. Intermittent fasting works if it fits into your schedule. But when you compare isocaloric diets with the same amount of protein of intermittent energy restriction, which is what we call it in the literature, intermittent fasting or intermittent calorie deficit from the intermittent fasting, or continuous energy restriction, means you're just eating the same amount of calories, you're in a calorie deficit, but you're eating it all throughout the day. There is no difference in weight loss, no difference in autophagy, no difference in longevity, no difference in anything. So the only people that really should do intermittent fasting is if it fits into their schedule. They kind of skip breakfast anyways. They don't care for it. If that helps you reduce calories and stay in a deficit, then that works for you. But there's no advantage to it other than that. If you were to eat all throughout the day, but the same amount of calories, same amount of protein, you'll lose the same exact amount of weight, and your health markers will be exactly the same between the two groups. Fasted cardio is this thought where if you wake up in the morning on an empty stomach, your insulin is low, your blood sugar is low, you're fasted. If you go hit the gym, do cardio, do weights, do whatever, that you'll somehow burn more energy from fat, and you want to draw from your fat stores. That has not turned out to be true at all. You end up burning the same amount of calories. There's this thing called EPOC, which we don't have to get into, but it's like prolonged oxygen utilization and lipid burning. It all depends on calorie deficit. Sometimes, like especially lifting weights and cardio, you don't want to be truly fasted doing that, because it has some deleterious effects. You can't lift as many reps. You can't work out as long. You can't stay on the bike as long. You can't, run as much or whatever. So it will limit your workouts, and then you don't get as much volume. You don't get as much sets. You don't get as much reps. You can't lift as much weight. So it definitely can hinder your performance, and there's no advantage to it compared to not being fasted in terms of like weight loss, body composition, and all the other stuff that we can measure.
I love it. I love it. I think you're spot on. I think it's amazing because before a workout, if I don't get my granola bar, I can't do my intense exercise. I can't. I need to have some oatmeal, something. I'll do half the amount. And so it's interesting that your body, you're saying that the science of your body, fasted or not fasted, is going to burn the same regardless. And if you can't do as many reps, you're probably going to be doing less. You're going to get less muscle gain and less weight loss because you're doing less exercise without the initial energy.
It's like you hired a bunch of workers to build a house, but you didn't buy them concrete or wood or drywall or any of the equipment they need. Trying to work out fasted without sugar, without carbohydrates, without protein, on an empty stomach, with barely anything in your bloodstream is very, very difficult and inefficient.
That's interesting. All right, another question is, have you heard of the book, How Not to Die?
I've heard and read every book.
So what are your thoughts on that? Nicole's asking.
Which part of it? I mean, it's an extensive book.
Mainly because I've been reading through it and it's very interesting because I did macro counting and lots of different things as far as really increasing protein intake, because I like lifting and I like running ultras, which don't necessarily go hand in hand. But
yeah, that's a good point. Before you continue, that's a really good point. If you're doing ultra endurance training, there's an interference effect with muscle building. If you're trying to build muscle, if you want muscle hypertrophy and you're doing endurance training, it's very difficult to build muscle, because when you're doing endurance and you're running marathons, your body needs to get rid of muscle, because muscle is a very expensive tissue. It needs oxygen, it needs nutrients, it needs glycogen, it needs all this energy. And if you pare it down and get real thin and skinny, you can actually do better endurance by actually having more fat, because you can draw from your fat. You don't want to carry out that much muscle. So that's another point you kind of have to pick. Now, is it overstated sometimes? Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh my God, you're doing cardio, you're going to lose all your gains. That's not true. Some cardio makes it so you can lift a little more weight and do an extra set or an extra rep. So they do go hand in hand, but definitely extreme endurance, you're going to lose muscle, or it's very difficult to build muscle. But I'm sorry, go on.
Yeah, I just really enjoy lifting in the morning and getting in long miles up in the Montana mountains with friends. But anyways, yeah, the How Not to Die book, mainly his, talking about cholesterol and kind of going through the things that'll kill you and different things like that, as far as what to decrease from your diet, if you will. And it was interesting to me to hear the different foods that he recommended avoiding, obviously major ones being like sugars and that kind of thing, but the different proteins were very interesting to me. And so I was curious, since you are a cardiologist, I eat very colorfully, but I have protein.
You eat what? Say that again.
I eat very colorfully. So like kale, like cabbage, like all the colors kind of thing. And I try to get like 12 colors a day, basically. And so just really curious to your thoughts on his stance on kind of the animal proteins, because I'm the kind of person where I eat animal protein 3 meals of the day.
Yeah, and I do too, and that's not a problem. You want to eat leaner cuts of meat, like turkey, chicken, egg whites, even the egg yolks if you want, cottage cheese, Faya Greek yogurt, 0%, has like almost no fat in it, or like even no carbs. I mean, you want to get your protein somehow. Whey protein is like a pure protein. It's very anabolic. It grows muscle. You definitely don't want to get into like way too many food restrictions. Like if you start being like so extreme, like don't eat Honeycrisp apples. Like literally there's a doctor who's a cardiothoracic surgeon who wrote a book, who wants to sell you this book, said don't eat tomatoes and don't eat Honeycrisp apples. And he found some weird, bizarre rat study from 1965 saying that something horrible happens if you eat them, which is insane, because every study we've done where somebody has switched from a meat-based diet to animal or plant-based diet, when they switch to a plant-based diet, they actually live longer. So I'm like you. I eat a balanced diet, mostly Mediterranean. If you look up a Mediterranean diet, you will know what to eat. Lean meat, salmon, chicken, turkey, whatever, hard-boiled eggs on your salad, on whatever. And sugar in and of itself is not bad. Like you will actually die if you don't have sugar. So all these people that are trying to scare people about sugar are literally insane. If you don't get sugar, you actually die. Now, sure, can you burn fat and make sugar and glucose and energy? Absolutely. But eventually that runs out too. So you have to eat a lot of fat to compensate for that. But the point is, you shouldn't demonize any one food group. They've done studies on sugar. It is not inflammatory in the absence of excess calories. But if you eat excess calories from anything, it's inflammatory, whether it's protein or fat or carbs, regardless of what you're overeating. If you're overeating, your inflammatory markers go up. Inflammatory markers track directly with BMI. The more overweight you are, the more inflammation you have in your inflammatory markers. So it's like, instead of like scaring people about crazy diet rules and crazy diet, restrictions, eat pretty much a healthy diet, kind of like you were describing. What most people eat is a Mediterranean style diet, avoid saturated fats as much as you can, and just kind of go from there. That definitely has the best outcomes. Mediterranean style diets reduces about 13 kinds of cancer, reduces all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality, and non-fatal cardiovascular events, heart attacks, strokes, things that don't kill you but are still horrible. So that would be my response to that.
Okay,
Thank you. So another question. Thank you, Nicole. That was awesome. Somebody else said something? So I was going to say Haas had another question about the detox. Like when going through like a juice detox or like for a period of time. I think Haas used to do that all the time. I don't know if he's done it recently. What's your thoughts on a detox? Kind of going through like a really restrictive for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. Or maybe Haas, if you want to go off mute and ask the question.
Yeah, just a detox in general. I never did a juice, but I've done just like a lemonade detox before for like just 5 days or something, just to clean it all out. But what are your thoughts on those?
So
and how often?
The best detox is just letting your liver and kidneys do their job. your liver and kidneys detox your blood, your food, your intestines, like all of that every day. There is really no scientific evidence or research that these detox cleanses or juices or diets or pills or teas or any of this do anything other than, you know, make you lose money. If you're buying a herbal tea that's a detox or whatever, none of that stuff actually does anything. You feel better because you're eating far fewer calories, and you're almost like in a state of ketosis at that point because you're eating literally almost nothing. Drinking just water or lemonade or cabbage or whatever some of these detoxes are, you're eating almost nothing. You're surviving on 200 to 300 calories a day. That in and of itself will make you feel better, especially mentally. You get a lot of mental clarity and focus. But long term, that has like almost no benefits. You're actually, you know, losing muscle and all that in the meantime. But your kidneys, a lot of my patients will bring me, hey, I bought these detox pills. Well, did you read the ingredients? Your liver and kidneys have to work overtime to detox you from what you just put in there. So, and not to mention it costs $60 or $100 or whatever they paid for the pills. You don't need to do that. Your liver and kidneys literally do that every day. As long as your liver and kidney markers and blood tests are fine, you don't need to do anything fancy to detox. If you want to go on a 72-hour fast or you drink just water or coffee or something, totally fine. You will eventually lose muscle if you do it long enough. But generally for a 48-hour or 72 hours, you're not going to lose a lot of muscle that you can't easily quickly gain back.
All right. That was insightful, like everything else. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? Well, we got Dr. Alo. We already took up 36, well, more than 36 plus 15. It was almost a little more than an hour more than we thought. Thank you. Do we have any other questions before we end the recording today? For Dr. Alo, do you got a little bit more time, or should I call it?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just driving back to Ohio. I've got like 3 hours left, so we're good.
I should go text more people. Have them join. We got this awesome opportunity to hang out with you for a little bit. Does anybody else have any other questions before we close?
This is keeping me awake, so this is good.
This is great. Well, I don't think we have any more questions.
Hey, Ramsey.
We actually do. Rashana, what's up?
Hey.
All right.
So I have a quick question. I have tried every yo-yo diet there is out there. I'm pretty sure. I just finished keto, lost a lot of weight. I'm doing the medical weight loss now simply because I needed accountability. Like I can train anybody to lose their weight, but when it comes to me doing it myself, big fat zero. So
tell me specifically what you did and how much weight you lost and what do you mean by medical weight loss?
Okay, so well, I did the keto and I lost probably about 35. And I've been on the medical weight loss, the actual company, medical weight loss. I've been with them for about 8 months. And
what do they do? What are they doing? What are they telling you to do?
So they have me started at a 3,500 calorie a day. I started out at 273 pounds with them. I'm at 240 now.
Okay.
Okay. But I'm eating 4 to 5 meals a day, getting in 63, 64 ounces of water a day at the very least. And I do like 3 fruits, 2 cups of veggies for 2 separate meals. That's pretty much where I'm at. Very low starch, like an English muffin in the morning, and that's about it, as far as starch is concerned.
But it adds up to how many calories by the end of the day? 3,500, you said?
3,500.
And weight
She's
is
pretty
still coming
tall.
off,
She's
or
pretty tall,
no?
Dr. Alo. Yeah, she's pretty tall. She's, what are you, like 6 foot? No,
I'm 5'11".
5'11", yeah. So she's pretty tall for.
So she's 5'12". So you're eating 3,500 calories a day. Is weight still coming off or not?
Not anymore. No, I am going, I'll drop 3 pounds and 3 days later I'll be 2 pounds up. Drop 3 pounds, 2 pounds up. So I'm plateaued.
So you might be at your new maintenance. 3,500 is probably your maintenance now. Usually what we do is we have people lower their weight to kind of match that. Once you plateau, there's a few things you can do. You can either drop your calories by 5, 10, 15%, or increase your activity by So 3,500 is quite a bit. I'm sure you noticed that. Drop it to like 3,200. See what happens there. Are they like? How do you measure it? What are you doing to measure it?
So I go in and I get weighed 3 times a week, and then we do measurements. I'm dropping in measurements, dropping in inches, but not anything significant. It's been a long time. I think I should be much smaller than I am.
Yeah, well, if it's insignificant, it could be the way they're measuring you. Like, it's not the same person, it's a different spot. They didn't really measure it the way they did last time. They squeezed it together a little more. That's not as accurate, but if unless you lose a ton of weight, then it does. Sometimes it's so imperceptible that you don't notice. But definitely, if you're eating 3,500 calories a day, I'm asking you, like, how do you know it's 35? Are they giving you food or are you tracking?
So they gave me a list to go by. And as long as I'm stuck within, so in the morning, I'll have a cheese stick, I'll have an English muffin, and I'll have like a cup of grapes. So they gave me measurements and the types of food to eat.
So then what you probably got to do is just take a little bit out. Instead of a cup of grapes, make it 3/4. Instead of a whole cheese stick, cut off like 30% of it. That, like, just decrease your calories slightly, because eventually you're going to hit a plateau. Like a 180-pound person, if they're eating, let's say, 2,500 calories a day to stay 180 pounds or to start losing weight, when they get to 160, that amount of calories is no longer a deficit for them. That's their maintenance. So what happens is you cross the threshold where it's a deficit now. You're actually at your new maintenance, which is good that it's still 3,500. That's a lot of food. 3,500 is fantastic because we can keep reducing it and never reach 800 or 900 or 1,200 like these extreme crazy diets. So that's good that you're at 35. What you can do is drop it to 33 or like 32 and a half and see what that new lower dose of calories does for you. But that should do the trick. Something like that would definitely work.
Okay.
So try that and see, but that would definitely be what I would recommend. I highly recommend you get onto my lives. I have these live programs that I do like almost every night on TikTok and YouTube Live.
Okay.
Do you have TikTok at all?
I do.
Okay, just search Dr. Alo. I'm literally on there almost every night talking about this stuff.
Okay.
So if you want to jump on there and ask questions or whatever it is, just remind me of your name and your story so we can kind of keep the conversation going. But definitely just drop your calories slightly. I think your weight will start coming off again. Or increase your activity slightly, whichever. But it's a little bit easier to drop your calories.
Okay.
Because you only have so much time in the day.
Exactly. Okay, we'll do. Thank you.
Rashana. So I'll send you, Dr. Alo, I'll send you Rashana's contact and you'll just look out for her.
Yes, shoot them all my info so that they can contact me or email me or message me or however they want to do it. Cell phone, WhatsApp, whatever.
Yeah, it's all on MohammedAlo.com. You can find him there, and I'll send you guys Dr. Alo's.
Or just go to dralo.net. If you go to dralo.net, you can reach me there too.
Okay, that's easier.
Thank you.
Yep. But yeah, if you go on TikTok, you'll find me. All my lives are on there. It's almost every night of the week. People are on there asking questions about weight loss, cholesterol, healthy eating. Should I eat this, not eat that? Should I eat this? What can I do instead of this? Like, it's super fantastic. It's a great community. Highly recommend it.
Awesome. Cool. I'll do that.
All right. Anybody else have any other thoughts, questions? It's amazing. Dr. Alo is a cardiologist, basically saving lives all day, every day, and still makes all this time to provide this content to help enrich everybody's lives, and helps them get to a healthier place, so they wouldn't have as many heart attacks, right? So
I hope
cool.
I do this. Like people ask me, why on earth do you go on these lives every night? I'm like, listen, my goal in life is to make it so you never need a cardiologist. So if you start doing this from now, because the TikTok age demographic is usually teenagers up to maybe about 40. It is aging up a little, but I don't want people to end up needing a cardiologist. So I try to provide them as much data and information and science and knowledge so that hopefully they follow all of it and don't end up ever needing me. That's kind of my goal with that. All the educational stuff on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Pinterest, LinkedIn, wherever you are, I am. So just find me.
I love it. So you're so appreciated. I really appreciate you coming on as an expert for today. His email is right here. You can shoot him an email if you want. If you have any other questions, you can ask him anytime. If you want to come to my classes in the morning or just, just send me a note or whatever, I'm here to support you. We talked a little bit about one of our lessons learned about choosing your network and your environment. You're all friends. You're invited to this call because I care and I want to share what I've learned. Hopefully it'll make a difference in your life because, my life has been completely transformed through this journey I've gone through, and I've got some lessons that I've learned. And I'm just really appreciate you guys taking time to kind of listen to some of my lessons, and hopefully you got some nuggets out of today and we can be in touch. And anytime you're interested to kind of join my workouts, you're welcome to join anytime. I'm here for you guys. So if you don't have a networking environment that supports you, I'm here for you. I really care about all of you that have called in, and hopefully we can stay in touch. So again, Dr. Alo, send him an email, go on his YouTube, go on his TikTok, buy his books, whatever. He is a wealth of knowledge, and we really appreciate everybody taking time today, and maybe we'll do another one sometime. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I'm available. Let me know.
This was fantastic. Thank you, Ramsey. Thank you, doctor.
The most important thing, like you said, Ramsey, is having like a community support system. That has been shown to help with weight loss, quitting smoking. When you have a supportive group and everybody's encouraging each other, always positive, always encouraging, super helpful, way better results, way more sustainable long term as well. It's fantastic that you're doing this.
I'm here to help. Every morning, just after prayer, 6:45, whatever, just dial in. It's just a Zoom meeting, and we'll work out together. And I share insights too. Like, not only do we do weight training, but I also kind of dial in mentally. We have a theme of the day. We do a little meditation before we close. We're together. So if I can share a little light in the morning for you guys or with you guys, it helps me too. So I appreciate that support from you as well, Dr. Alo. That was really nice. So thank you for that.
Great job.